Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be reacting to the newly announced Pat McGrath holiday collection. Everything is now on the Pat McGrath website, so I'm leaving you the link down below for you to go check it out yourself if you want to. But in today's video I'm going to break it all down for you. I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to tell you the prices, I'm going to show you the bundles, and of course I'll tell you my opinion on this new release and what products I'll end up buying to review here on my channel. The collection is quite large. She's releasing quite a few different products and it's different from anything she's ever done before for the holiday. So I'm excited to get into all of it with you. If you guys are excited for today's video, give it a thumbs up before you leave and let's go ahead and get started. Miss Pat McGrath is going all out for the holiday season this year. She is releasing 2 large palettes and 4 smaller palettes. The quints are coming back and hopefully better than they've been in the past. We'll get into that in a second. Besides that, she's also coming out with 3 cheek palettes and 3 new Dark Star Mascara limited edition colors. This entire collection is called the Bijoux collection. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It is French and it stands for jewelry, so the jewelry collection. I was looking it up on Google. I'm like, how do you say that? And I think it sounds something like bijou or around the lines of that. Anyways, the outside packaging of all of these is filled with white and blue diamonds, and they also have these like silk bows around them. This looks to be the cardboard packaging that she releases with every holiday collection, and also the one that she's been releasing with the quints. And I think the way I want to do this is I want to react to each product individually. I'll cover the prices, I'll tell you what I think of it and move on to the next product, and then we'll get into the bundles. So of course we have to start with the Mothership Bijoux Brilliance Ultra Glamour Timeless Treasures, which are 2 new big eyeshadow palettes. Now these eyeshadow palettes are a bit different than what she's done before, and I'm going to scoot over this way because I want to have space for my pictures. They're a little bit different than what she's done before because they're not exclusively eyeshadow palettes, which kind of threw me off, to be honest with you. They are eyeshadow palettes that also have blushes in them. These palettes retail for $76 each. Like I said, there is 2 different color stories. We have the Starstruck Splendor color story, which seems to be a color story for lighter complexions. Not because of the eyeshadows, but because of the blushes. And this is what kind of threw me off about these palettes, is that even though the eyeshadows are kind of universally flattering on all complexions, I don't think the blushes are, so it's kind of limiting in my opinion. Will I get both of these? Yes, I will. I can already tell you that. You already know it probably, but it did throw me off a little bit. Anyway, so this is Starstruck Splendor right here. And then we also have Jewel Temptation, which as you can see has a bit more darker of a color story when it comes to the eyeshadows, but I love that. In fact, out of the 2, this is the one that caught my eye first, because I love the dark, deep burgundy eyeshadows. But it also has darker blushes in there. Again, both of these retail for $76 and they each have 9 eyeshadow pans and 2 blush pans. Let's go back to Starstruck Splendor and break it down. When it comes to the eyeshadows of this one, I absolutely love that she included a couple of green shades in there to be a bit of a contrast with the more neutral color story. There is a bronze shade and a very light gold, but it's not a pink forward palette and also it's not a gold forward palette. I feel like it has a good balance of shades in there. I'm very happy that she has 4 mattes and 5 shimmers in this palette. The shade Forever Nude seems to be a beautiful transition shade for light complexions, and then you can deepen it up with the other 3 mattes. The darkest it gets is the shade Mystic Majesty, which is not quite a burgundy but a deeper type of rose shade. The shade Opalescent Moonstone seems to be a beautiful duochrome that has gold and pink shifts to it. Eternal Bronze is kind of meh for me. However, Fawn Fantasia seems to be a beautiful color for the inner corner of the eye. And then I am very excited about the green shades in this one. Celestial Celadon, I think maybe that's how you say that, and Emerald Eclipse. They both look really beautiful, very sparkly. I expect these shades to be nice and sparkly because it's called the Bijoux collection jewelry. It's sparkly, right? So both of these colors I think are going to be a great addition to the Pat McGrath line, and I think I'm going to have fun playing with them. I think they'll combine beautifully with the rest of the shades in this palette. Moving on to the blushes, each one of these bigger palettes have one already existing blush shade and one new shade. So in the Starstruck Splendor palette, the already existing shade is the shade Nymphette, which is one of my favorite blushes from the Pat McGrath line, so I definitely don't mind having it double in my collection. And then the new shade is Coral Cosmos, which looks beautiful and peachy and honestly very promising, so I'm also excited about this one. Moving on to the Jewel Temptation palette, which seems to be the palette for maybe a bit darker complexions. Again, not because of the shadows, I think the shadows are going to work on everyone, but because of the blush shades. Let's start with the eyeshadows though. Once again, she gave us 4 mattes and 5 shimmers in this one, which I absolutely love. This one does have a very defined gold shade in there and a very defined pink and also a very defined bronze, which is very typical to what Pat McGrath loves to do. This one out of the two might be the one that has the more repeated type shades within the Pat McGrath line, because Pat also loves her deep burgundies, and this one also has a couple of deep burgundies in the matte category. However, I am very excited about the shade Amethyst Noir, which is a beautiful sparkling purple shade, and I'm excited to see how that one works and added to my collection. Star Garnet also looks like a beautiful pink shade that is not too like in your face pink. It has a bit of purple in there as well. So I feel like between the two eyeshadow palettes, when it comes to innovation in the color story, the lighter palette has the newest, most different type shades. But honestly, first impressions right out the gate when I looked at them side by side, this is the one that I was most attracted to, because this is the kind of color story that I generally love to go for. You guys know I love my burgundy shades on the outer corner of the eye. So we'll see. I'm definitely very excited to play with these shades whenever it is that they release. Moving on to the blushes, which is the reason I thought this one probably is a palette more geared to medium to dark complexions. The shade Paradise Venus is definitely a darker blush color that is going to be beautifully suited for darker complexions. And out of these two, this is the already existing shade in the collection. And then the shade Desert Amber, which is a very nude, lighter blush color, is the shade that is new to the Pat McGrath line from these two. So that kind of concludes my first initial thoughts on both of these palettes. Will I buy them? Of course I will. I will buy them both to review for you here on my channel and to do looks with. I usually do a 5 looks 1 palette with the holiday palette each year, and I don't know what to do with these. I'm not sure what type of content to create for them besides my like initial review, because they have 9 pans instead of 18, I think is what they usually have. So she kind of divided it into now that I think about it, usually they're 18 pans for around that same price. And this year we're getting 9 pans with 2 blushes for the $76 price tag. So that's a little bit pricier, isn't it? Am I correct in thinking that? Are they 18? Yes. I hadn't thought about that. They indeed used to be 18 pans for the $76 price tag, and now each palette has 9 shades for $76 with the blushes, which are definitely the least interesting thing about this palette, if I do say so myself. So that is definitely something to have in mind, that we're now getting 9 eyeshadow shades for the same price with the 2 blushes. But like I said, I just don't care about the blushes that much. I have my first complaint. I would definitely much rather have a big 18 pan palette for the $76 price tag than have them divided like this with the addition of the blushes. That's just me. Will I still buy them? Yes, I will. I want to review them. This is what I do for a living. I love the color stories too, so like I'm not mad about purchasing them, but that is something to think about for sure. Anyways, let's move on before I go down a tangent. The Quins are back, and I believe that they are the same price as they used to be. I think $36 is what they were from the beginning. If not, maybe $32, but they're around the same price. The Quints launched last year for holiday with these two right here that I have, and I did end up liking. In particular, this one here. I loved, not that one. In particular, this one here. I loved the color story of this one. That silver shade right there was chef's kiss. Beautiful, right? However, she then released more Quints at the beginning of this year with the Star Wars collection, and these were not my favorite. I did like the one with all of the colors. This one here, I enjoyed the formula of this one, even though it didn't have any matte shades. I created looks with these shades that I ended up liking, and these were not super crumbly. They're kind of creamy and smooth. This one was also okay. I did have a bit of a fallout issue with some of the shimmers, but I did really enjoy the two mattes in this one. I don't know why I'm doing a recap, but just stay with me here. And then this right here was the one that I definitely did not like. This one didn't have any mattes in it. I didn't think the color story was super cohesive, and the shade that I was most excited about, this blue one here, was super crumbly. So this was not my favorite. Anyways, the Quints are back, and she is coming out with 4 new Quints. So let me tell you what I think about the individual color stories. Like I said, these are going to retail for $36 each. And let's get started with the first one, which is Bronze Ecstasy. I have been really into cool tones lately, and so I am excited to see that she put some cool tone mattes in the color story of this one, like the color Twilight Taupe. I don't think Pat McGrath has ever had a shade quite as taupey as that one in her collection, so I'm excited about it. And then Merlot Mystique is a beautiful cool tone burgundy shade that I'm also very excited to play with. I love that this Quint has 2 mattes and 3 shimmers in there. I know that I'm going to enjoy creating looks with this color story. And so overall, I like it. I'm excited to play with the Quints. I just remember Pat McGrath usually does her holiday releases in 2 parts. So I think the way it usually works is we first buy the big palette and then the rest of the collection, or vice versa. I'm not sure. She hasn't announced when anything is coming out yet. Everything just says coming soon. So we'll see how she does it this year. Moving on to the second palette, which is called Sunset Romance. This one also has 2 matte shades and 3 shimmers. This one is much more of a common color story. Within the Pat McGrath makeup line, we have 2 mattes and 3 shimmers. It is a rosy color story, so if you're sick of Pat McGrath pinks, just stay away from this one, okay? Do not buy it. I do really like the shade Sunkissed Rose, though. It reminds me of Mothership number 7 and the cool tone rose shade in that palette. Petalic Passion is a funny name, but besides that, it's also a very common shade for Pat McGrath. And Suede Sienna also looks like something she has repeated in her collection quite a bit. So this one, not as exciting just because we already have very similar shades from Pat McGrath in a similar color story to this one, but beautiful nonetheless. This next one I think might be the one that I am most excited about, and it's weird because it only has 1 matte versus 2. I usually prefer the palettes with 2 mattes, but I love that she has teal shades in this Quint. The shades Neptunian Orchid and Noir Nebula, they look so good. I really hope that they perform well and that they're not too crumbly. I am crossing my fingers and hoping that they are creamy shades and not too crumbly, because if these shades perform well, I know I'm going to be in love with them. And I know also that they're going to make a beautiful contrast with the matte shade from this Quint, which is Midnight Iris, and this one is like in between a beet purple and a burgundy shade, I think. At least that's what it looks like on the pan. Maybe it's a bit more purple beet shade than it is burgundy. It looks beautiful nonetheless. I think it's going to make a beautiful contrast with the teal shades in this palette. And then besides these 3, which are definitely the most exciting, we have 2 lighter shimmers, one sparklier than the other, that are going to complement the rest of the shades nicely and that are going to make for perfect inner corner shades. So I think this is the one that I'm most excited about out of the 4. And then lastly, we have the Quint called Bordeaux Bliss, which I think probably is the one that I am the least excited about. The main reason being that there isn't one single matte shade in that Quint color story. And I need a matte. I need a matte at least somewhere. Obviously, I can pair this palette with any other matte in my collection, but like using it on its own, I need a matte. And so we'll see. Sometimes some of these formulas can blend out beautifully on the crease of the eye and not look too shiny on the crease to where the matte is not as needed. But first impressions, I just feel like I need a matte. The color I'm most excited about in this quint is definitely Ruby Noir, which is not red. It's like a very dark purple glitter shade. I'm hoping it's a glitter shade, and so that one definitely looks like something I would really enjoy on my eyelid for a very deep, dark, smoky eye. I think it's going to be great for the holiday season. And then the other reason I'm not overly excited about this palette is because once again it's a rose palette, which we've seen before from Pat McGrath. However, the shade Ruby Noir is new and innovative, and I am excited to play with that one specifically, so we shall see. Will I buy the quints? Yes, I will buy the quints. I want to review them for you and want to help you make the best decision for yourself as far as what to get from Pat McGrath. So I'll be buying all 4 of them so that I can show you. We'll see, we'll see. I don't know how many videos I'm going to have to divide this collection into. Moving on. She is coming out, as I said, with 3 different cheek palettes, and I like the way she did the cheek palettes because each cheek palette has a bronzer, blush, and a highlighter, and she has one that is for light complexions, one that is for medium to tan, and one that is for dark to deep. So I'm excited about that. I was checking across her website, and I believe, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe that the bronzers of each of these cheek palettes are already existing. Well, this I'm sure about. The bronzers are already existing shades in her collection, but the blushes and the highlighters of each palette are new. These cheek palettes are going to retail for $52 each. Like I said, each one has an already existing bronzer and 2 new shades, a blush and a highlighter. This is the part that I'm like 99% sure about, but I could be wrong. Let's start with the lighter one, which is called Forever Nude. This one has the Nude Honey Bronzer, which is the second lightest in her line, which I have and I like, and it works for my complexion very nicely. And then it has the Naked Peony Blush, which seems to be her blush formula that has the most amount of glow in there. It looks like a nice pinky blush. And then the Opal Allure Highlighter, which seems to be a champagne highlighter with a slight pink undertone to it. I like the color story. It's definitely going to work for light complexions. It's nice and cohesive. I don't have anything negative I can say about it, and I like that the blush and highlighter shades are new to her line. Moving on to Nirvana in Bloom, the bronzer shade, like I said, already existing, and this one is called Bronze Nirvana, which might have given the palette its name. I really like the blush of Bronze Nirvana. It's called Sunset Bloom, and it has a beautiful peachy golden blush in there that I think is going to be flattering on medium skin tones. And then the highlighter shade is called Lotus Nectar, which is a highlighter with a strong peach undertone. I'm sure it's going to pair beautifully with the blush as well. And then last but not least, the darkest of the 3 has the second to darkest bronzer in her collection, which is called Burnished Honey. The blush shade is Midnight Orchid, which to me seems a little bit close to some of the other orchid blush shades in her line. However, it is beautiful and it has that glowy finish to it. And then the Solar Fantasy highlighter, which has a beautiful peachy undertone to it. I know it's going to be flattering, very flattering on a lot of dark to deep complexions. So as I said, these retail for $52 each. Will I buy them? Definitely not all of them. I will maybe buy the lightest of the 3, but this is the thing in her collection that I know I could skip on because I already have a lot of her bronzers and her blushes individually, so this is not a must-have for me. But just for the sake of trying the new blush and highlighter for you, I might end up getting the one that is suited for my complexion, which is the lightest one. Because the medium one, I could wear the bronzer probably, and I could wear the blush probably, but the highlighter is going to be too dark. So I think I might end up going for Forever Nude alone. Let's move on to the last product she released, which is 3 different new shades of the Dark Star Mascara. The Dark Star Mascara, I love. It gives me fabulous looking lashes. Sometimes it smears on me like a little bit, but it's not a huge deal. For a very long time, I could not stop raving about this mascara, and she's releasing 3 new shades of it. We have the shade Renegade Red, which is a red mascara, which I thought was an interesting choice. We have the shade Azure Allure, which I think is my favorite out of the 3 because it's like a pastel blue shade, and I thought that was pretty nice and different. And then the shade Electric Jade, which for green eyeshadow lovers I think is going to definitely be a hit. I'm personally not that interested in that one. I'm not sure if I'm going to get any of them because I don't really get as much use as the one I got last year, and I like last year's colors of mascara better than this year's. But if I get any one of them, it's going to be the shade Azure Allure because I just like that pastel blue shade that these mascaras have. And these mascaras are going to retail for $34 each. Okay, I've covered everything. I've told you the prices and my thoughts on everything so far. So besides buying all of the products individually, Pat also has, as per usual, bundles where you can save some money. The biggest bundle is a bundle where you have every single product I just mentioned, every individual item, and that one is $456. So you can have the whole thing for $456. She usually has a 10% discount code, so it'll probably come out to $417 or something plus tax depending on where you live. You can make your calculation, so you can have everything for that hefty price. Then there is another bundle that has everything except for the mascaras, and that bundle is $370. Again, 10% off upon release. It'll be a little bit less, and you can have all 4 of the quints, the 2 large palettes, and the 3 cheek palettes. I'm not going to get that bundle either because I don't need all of that. She also has bundled the quints. You can get all 4 of the quints for $125. She has bundles of 2 of the quints for $62. There's a bundle where you can get all 3 mascaras for $85. A bundle of the quints with the mascaras for $205. The one that I'll end up getting, I'm pretty sure, is this next one here, which is $250, and this one has the 2 larger palettes and the 4 quints. This is everything that I am the most interested about reviewing for you, so I'll probably end up getting this bundle with the 2 large palettes and the 4 quints, and then I'll also get one of the cheek palettes individually. If you want just the cheek palettes on their own, you can also get that bundle for $130. And this one is probably going to be a good seller too. If you're only interested in the 2 larger palettes, you can get the 2 larger palettes bundled together for $125. Depending on how she releases things, I'm not sure if these bundles are going to be available right out the gate because, like I said, sometimes she releases some products before some other products. So we'll have to see about that. Like I said, I don't have a release date to give you yet. However, the way she usually does things, today is Friday the 15th. I'm assuming probably by next Thursday or Friday, the collection will be releasing. Let me get back to the center. Overall, I am excited about Pat McGrath's new collection. I'm excited to play, I'm excited to create looks and show you what everything looks like and help you make the best decision for yourself as far as the products you might want to add to your collection at home. But I am disappointed at the fact that we're not getting one large palette with 18 shades. I feel like she should have just kept on going with that. I don't know why they decided to give us 9-pan palettes with 2 blushes. That's definitely a bit of a letdown for me personally. I always look forward to like the big holiday palette from Pat McGrath, and her dividing it and putting blushes next to them kind of takes away a little bit of that excitement. The other thing that I'm a little worried about is the formulation of the shades in the quints, because I was not super impressed with the formulations of the shades in the Star Wars quints. And it's not that these were made anywhere different from where she usually makes them. These were made in Italy, but I promise you, especially on this palette right here, the formulation I thought was crumbly and kind of a little bit more difficult to use than what she's previously released. So I'm hoping that the formulation of the quints is a bit more consistent to what Pat McGrath usually offers us this time around. But I'll let you know once I review this collection. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet and you want to stay tuned for when I review everything I talked about in today's video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Before you leave, if you guys like today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you back in the next one. Bye.